All right, class, let's talk some more about the Cold War. Essential question, how did the Cold War change Europe? The Cuban Missile Crisis took place in the early 60s. Cuba becomes a communist country under Castro in 1959. The Bay of Pigs was an invasion in which we tried to supply the nationalists of Cuba, who had been ousted by Fidel, arms and supplies to attack and then control Cuba, and it failed miserably. Castro gets kind of freaked out, requests help from the Soviets, and then the Soviets sent a bunch of missiles, nuclear missiles. U.S. demands removal and sets up a naval blockade, and this was the closest that we ever came to all-out nuclear war in '61. Now, the buildup of arms in the nuclear race led to a nuclear test ban in '63. U.S., USSR, and Great Britain banned atmospheric nuclear bomb tests. But France, who was trying to develop their own nuclear program, did not sign, and China had recently developed the atomic bomb, so they did not sign as well. The fall of Khrushchev. Khrushchev had ruled after Stalin since '53. Khrushchev's failure to produce agriculture, some of his designs and or some of his plans did not come to fruition, and he was ousted. The conservative Stalinists lead to his removal. Brezhnev was the new general secretary. There was some re-Stalinization of some of the old conservatives, and then there was also a buildup of arms and the army, not necessarily nuclear devices. The Prague Spring of '68 took place when Alexander Dubček was elected leader in Czechoslovakia in 1968. He was a reformist. He tried to bring about change in Czechoslovakia. Brezhnev saw this as a threat to the communism and invaded Czechoslovakia. Brezhnev issues a doctrine claiming the right to invade any socialist country if threatened, when necessary, if communism is going to be removed. Ostpolitik, West German Chancellor Brandt tries to mend the split between the two Germanys. So he really, tried to extend an olive branch and make things better. This was a very trying time in Germany because the West was, especially in East Germany, the West was enjoying now the Western European style of life. They had a better economy, they had a better lifestyle. Things were going much, much better for people in the West. People in the East, it was not so good. He worked with the Soviets, set up borders for Poland, combined Germany, and USSR, and this started the process of a combined Germany once again. Diante, President Nixon, tries to push for more reforms in Eastern Europe. Nixon makes visits to China and in '72, and then Moscow in Russia, in the Soviet Union. And Nixon was the first American president to ever visit China, so this was a very big deal. SALT I was the banning of nuclear bombs in 1972, and it was starting to limit the amount of nuclear weapons that the United States and Soviet Union could build. The end of Diante was when the Soviets invaded Afghanistan, and that also led to President Carter banning the 1980 Olympics, not banning, but withdrawing the United States from the 1980 Olympics. Now, we had a solidarity movement in Poland. Pope John Paul II was from Poland. He was elected and inspired a mass union or solidarity in Poland. This was led by Walesa. Communist leaders of Poland imposed martial law, and this solidarity movement then had to go underground. The Atlantic Alliance. So in the late '70s, early '80s, there was an Atlantic Alliance between Margaret Thatcher, a very conservative, hardline military stance from Great Britain, the UK, Helmut Kohl, pro-American, fought for one Germany. He was from West Germany. And then we had Ronald Reagan, elected president in the United States. He was conservative. He increased defense spending, sought to wear down the Soviets. So these three formed, a little Atlantic alliance, and they took a very hard line against the Soviets. Mikhail Gorbachev came into power, sought to reduce the Cold War tensions. Petro Skrylov sought to restructure Soviet economy. Glasnost aimed to open Soviet society to free speech, freedom of the press, withdrew the Soviets from Afghanistan. Mikhail Gorbachev is one of the instrumental leaders of the Soviet Union at the end of this communism. Revolutions of 1989 ended communism in Eastern Europe. Communism began to decline in strength in Eastern Europe, and these satellite countries that were controlled by Soviet Union slowly but surely started to build in strength against communism, and sooner or later the Soviet Union did not have the wherewithal to continue to control them. Poland, led by Walesa, had free elections and elected Walesa as president. Hungary leaders proclaimed independence October of '89. Berlin Wall comes down in November of '89, and East Germany government falls. Bulgaria falls in November of '89, Czechoslovakia December of '89, Romania late December '89, and Albania in early 1990. So all of these satellite countries that made up the Warsaw Pact, that were controlled by the communists, controlled by the Soviet Union, ever since the end of World War II. Finally, they had some freedoms. They finally were able to have a democratic way of life, and they started to break away from the Soviet Union. Our next video conversation, which will be our last, will pertain to the fall of communism and the Soviet Union. All right, history's no mystery. Take good notes.